Hola, muy buenas tardes, muy buenos días a todos. Espero que todos estén bien. Hoy vamos a aprender de los objetos dobles o la combinación de objeto indirecto y objeto directo. Bueno, ya hablamos mucho hace una semana, 2 semanas, de los objetos indirectos y los objetos directos en el capítulo 5 y capítulo 6. Entonces ahora vamos a combinar el uso de los dos, ¿ok? Vamos a combinar un objeto, el pronombre de un objeto indirecto, el pronombre de un objeto directo, ¿ok? Entonces, so why do we use pronouns, right? We use pronouns, especially when we're talking about our direct object pronouns and our indirect object pronouns, to replace a noun, right? So if you think about what replacing a noun involves, okay, especially when you're talking about things that are either the person to whom or for whom an action is being done, or something receiving the action of the verb directly, we're trying to make our speech shorter, okay? We're trying to reference things that have already been talked about and to say things like it and them instead of the computer or a ellos y a ellas, right? So we're basically making our speech more condensed, okay? To be able to say things like it and them or me, right? So here's what we're doing with our double object pronouns is we're combining them. We're using both an indirect object pronoun and a direct object pronoun. So if someone says, he brings the computer to her, right? What would be the direct object? ¿Qué es el objeto directo en esta frase? Right? He brings what? He brings la computadora, right? Él trae la computadora a ella. Okay, so remember our indirect object pronoun or our indirect object answers to whom or for whom an action is done. So he brings what to whom? To her, right? So in this sentence would be, él trae la computadora a ella, right? But we're going to shorten that to se la trae, okay? And we'll look at when we use different indirect object pronouns and direct object pronouns together, how those work, what comes first, and some little peculiarities that we're going to find. So let's go ahead and get into our PowerPoint. Espero que todos estén bien hoy. Bueno, muy bien. Aquí tenemos. Bueno, en las lecciones 5 y 6 aprendimos de los objetos directos y los objetos indirectos y los pronombres que reemplazan a los sustantivos. And so these, we're talking about direct and indirect object pronouns that replace nouns, and they often refer to nouns that have already been referenced, like I said, right? We're trying to make our speech shorter. We're trying to have some brevity, okay? So this is what these are allowing us to do. So now we're gonna learn how to use these together, okay? How we're gonna use these together, all right? Now, let's look at our diagram here. So here we have our indirect object pronouns, okay? Now, if you notice, there's a lot missing here, but the first and second person indirect object pronouns are the same as the first and second person direct object pronouns, okay? Because you can say things like, he brings me her, right? If you're talking about like a baby or something, right? Él trae el bebé a mí, right? So, me lo trae, or you can also say, he brings me you, or he brings you me, right? So we can also use our direct object pronouns as me, te, nos, and os. So they're the same for the first and second persons, right? Son lo mismo. Es lo mismo en la primera y segunda persona, los objetos indirectos y los objetos directos, okay? Now, where our major differences is in our tercera persona, right? En la tercera persona, okay? As you can see, we have le and les. Now, remember that our indirect object pronouns are not gendered. They are only numbered, right? So if you have a singular first person, it would be me. If you have a singular third person, le. Singular second person, te. Plural first person, nos. Plural third person, les, okay? Now, we also see that parentheses and se, right? We'll get back to that and why we use that in our double object constructions. But the main difference between our indirect object pronouns and our direct object pronouns is that our third person pronouns are much different, and our third person direct object pronouns are not only gendered, but they're also numbered, okay? Whereas our indirect object pronouns are only numbered. They're not gendered, okay? So let's get into this. All right, now, when direct and indirect object pronouns are used together, cuando se usan juntos, right? El objeto indirecto, el pronombre del objeto indirecto, always precedes, viene primero, right? Before the direct object pronoun. So it's always going to come before the direct object pronoun, no matter what. All right, and I always usually look at this as people are more important than things. Although our direct object pronoun can be about people, right? Generally, it's about things, okay? So people are more important than things. That's where we're going to use the indirect object pronoun first, okay? So let's look at this sentence here. La camarera me muestra el menú, okay? Now, this is not only an indirect object, but it's also an indirect object pronoun, right? Because if you wrote out the long form of this sentence, this first sentence, la camarera me muestra el menú, it would be la camarera muestra el menú a mí, right? So, excuse me. So what we have to do when we're looking at these sentences is ask those questions that help us identify which is the indirect object pronoun, or which is the indirect object and which is the direct object, right? ¿Cuál es el objeto indirecto? ¿Cuál es el objeto directo? Okay? So en esta frase, la camarera me muestra el menú. Okay? Now, remember, indirect object pronoun answers to whom or for whom an action is done. So she shows, okay, now, so let's look at the entire sentence. What's our subject of this sentence? Okay, who is doing the action, right? It's the waitress, right? The waitress shows, right? Who does she show? She shows me, right? So that is to whom or for whom the action is done. But what does she show, right? She shows what? She shows the menu. She sells seesaws, man. She shows the menu, right? The menu, el menú. Muestra el menú a mí, right? So she shows what? The menu. That would be our direct object. She shows what to whom? To whom would be me, the menu, right? So me would be our indirect object, also our indirect object pronoun. So if we were going to combine the use of this, let's think about how we would do this in English. The waitress shows the menu to me. She shows it to me, right? So that's how we're going to work that. And that's what the point of all this is, to be able to say it and me and them instead of having to say out that long form, because we're replacing nouns with these pronouns, right? So me lo muestra. That's the same thing as saying la camarera me muestra el menú. If we have a lot of context, if we know what we're talking about, prior to that, we can just say me lo muestra. She shows it to me. Okay, so when we're thinking about the syntax in this, our English syntax is going to be way off. Es muy diferente nuestro syntax que lo que tienen en español, right? But if we look at this sentence using these three words, me lo muestra, it's almost backwards, right? From our English syntax, me lo muestra, okay? She shows, right? And the she is contained in that conjugation of the verb mostrar. She shows, we know it's a third person singular conjugation. She shows it to me. So almost like we're working backwards, right? Or to me, she shows, right? Sounds a bit Shakespearean, right? A little bit like Old English, very proper English. Me lo muestra, to me, she shows, right? Or she shows it to me, okay? Let's look at the second sentence. Nos sirven los platos, right? They serve what? They serve the dishes. To whom? To us. So nos los sirven. All right. If you wanted to write this out even longer, it would be sirven los platos a nosotros, right? Sirven los platos a nosotros. So it would be nos los sirven. Instead of saying they serve us the dishes, or say they serve the dishes to us, right? They serve them to us. Nos los sirven. Let's work backwards in our syntax from English, right? Look at this sentence when we go in reverse. They serve them to us. They serve what? Los platos, the dishes. To whom? To us. A nos, a nosotros, right? Nos. Nos los sirven. To us, them they serve, right? Muy bien. Ok, otra frase. Maribel te pidió una hamburguesa. Maribel te la pidió, right? So she ordered what? She ordered a hamburger. For whom? For you. Te la pidió. Te la pidió. Okay, let's look at the sentence quickly. ¿Quién te los dio? ¿Quién te los dio? Now, no context there, so we really don't know what's going on, but we can assume a few things here. Who gave them to you, right? Who, ¿quién, gave those things, masculine, plural, noun, to you? Okay, so she says, me los compró un chico muy guapo. Okay, so he's asking the question to you or to her in this sentence. ¿A quién se los dio? So he's saying, ¿a quién te los dio? Who gave them to you? She responds, a handsome man gave those to me. Me los compró un chico muy guapo. All right. Some handsome guy bought those for me. Bien. Okay, now in Spanish, two pronouns that begin with the letter el, cannot be used together. No se puede usar L y L cuando son pronombres, right? They cannot be back-to-back L pronouns. Okay, and that's why you've heard me already say se los compró, or quién se los compró, right? And also we mentioned earlier when we were looking at our indirect object pronouns that the se was in parentheses, okay? And let's look back. Why? Why just that third person? Why are those the one in the parentheses, right? Well, that's because en la tercera persona, los objetos indirectos son L, right? Y empiezan con L. Les, okay? So we have to use se when we're following that with a direct object pronoun, okay? So, therefore, the indirect object pronouns le and les always change to se when they're used with lo, los, la, and las, right? Now, that's when you're using it with a third person plural or singular direct object pronoun, okay? So let's look at an example here. Now, we're able to use le because we're not using another pronoun following it, right? So, le escribí la carta. The letter I wrote to him, right? The letter I wrote to him, or I wrote him the letter. Le escribí la carta, or escribí la carta a él, right? We wanted to make it in the long form. Escribí la carta a él. So we know we're going to be using la for this direct object, right? Because it's what? She wrote what? The letter, okay? Now, remember, when we're looking at finding our direct object pronouns, okay, we're going to look at the number and the gender of the noun. And the only difference from the definite article of those nouns and the indirect or the direct object pronoun would be the singular masculine. Instead of él, it's going to be lo, right? So this was la carta, that would be la, right? So le escribí la carta, se la escribí. Se la escribí. Okay? Les sirvió los sándwiches. Okay? He served them the sandwiches, right? Now we know our indirect object pronouns, already les, right? And los is going to be our direct object, right? And to shorten that, we're going to not say los sándwiches, but we're going to say los, right? To say them instead of the long form. So, se los sirvió, right? If you did not have that se, it would be les los sirvió. It's just really hard to say. And that's why we use the se, right? Le la escribí. It's just difficult to say. It's much harder to say than se la escribí. Les los sirvió. Much harder to say than se los sirvió, right? Okay, muy bien. Now, because se has multiple meanings, Spanish speakers often clarify to whom the pronoun refers by adding a él, a ella, a usted, a ustedes, a ellos, a ellas. Now, we've seen this before. It's time and time again. And this is just because we have three different persons that it could belong to, right? For each. Usted, él, ella, ustedes, ellos, ellas, ¿no? Son tres personas en cada grupo, okay? So, that's why you'll see them use them not only a direct and an indirect object pronoun together, but they'll also include sometimes the long form of the indirect object, okay? And that's what it means by clarifying. You're just adding the indirect object on to your sentence, right? El sombrero, Carlos se lo vendió a ella, right? Now, if we knew what happened already with the hat, we could refer to this with se and not include the a ella, but that helps us clarify that se, right? Same thing here. Las verduras, ellos se las compran a usted. They're buying them for you, right? A usted, okay? If we didn't include that a usted, it could be a usted, a él, a ella, a Maribel, a Felipe, lo que sea, right? But it just helps clarify that say. Muy bien. Now, double object pronouns are placed before a conjugated verb, just like our other pronouns, right? Le gusta el perro, right? It's placed before the verb. Now, when we use an infinitive and present participles, just like with our other pronouns, they may be placed before the conjugated verb or attached onto the end of the infinitive or present participle, okay? So same thing right here, right? It's the same thing. Just depends on your preference. Te lo voy a mostrar. Te lo voy a mostrar. Voy a mostrártelo. Voy a mostrártelo. Now, if you notice, there's something a little bit peculiar about this because we're adding an accent. We're adding an accent, right? And that's because we have to maintain the stress of this verb on the second syllable, mostrar, right? Te lo voy a mostrar. Voy a mostrártelo. If you didn't add that accent, it would sound like this. Voy a mostrártelo. We're not Italian here. Voy a mostrártelo, right? Voy a mostrártelo. We need that emphasis. We need the emphasis on the correct syllable, right? All right, same thing here. Nos las están comprando. Nos las están comprando. Están comprándonoslas. Same thing. I usually use the pronouns before the conjugated verb. Yo normalmente uso los pronombres antes del verbo, pero a cada quien como le guste, ¿no? No importa. Es igual. Es lo mismo, ¿no? Muy bien. Ok, otro ejemplo. Mi abuelo me lo está leyendo. He is reading it to me. Mi abuelo está leyéndomelo. Okay, and it just depends on preference. El camarero se los va a servir. El camarero va a servírselos. Okay, he's going to serve them to you all or to them. We don't know. Okay, now as you can see above, when double object pronouns are attached to an infinitive or a present participle, an accent is needed to maintain that original stress, right? Muy bien, muchísimas gracias. Actually, let's look at some examples. Let's look at some further examples here. I'm going to bring up the whiteboard. All right, let's look at a couple examples, guys. So, aquí tenemos tres frases, ¿no? Aquí tenemos tres frases, ¿ok? Y vamos a cambiar cada frase para usar los objetos dobles, ¿no? Los objetos dobles, ¿ok? Primero encontramos. Let's first diagnose the sentence and see the parts of speech here, okay? So, muy bien. Okay, we have, el hombre pidió el bistec a ti. Okay, now, let's see here. Ay, Dios. Bien. Perdón, eh? Okay, very good. Okay, now what is our subject of the sentence here? ¿Cuál es el sujeto? ¿Cuál es el sujeto de la frase? Es el hombre, ¿no? Because he's the one doing the action, right? Pidió, pedir es el verbo, ¿no? Okay, he orders what or asks for what? El bistec, right? So that would be the direct object, right? El bistec. Okay, and then we have a ti, to whom? For you or to you. Okay, so that would be our indirect object. Muy bien. Now, remember, our indirect object becomes first. Our indirect object comes before our direct object. So, primero vamos a incluir el sujeto. Vamos a incluir el sujeto, el hombre. Okay? So, indirect object, direct object, verb, right? Indirect object, direct object, verb. Okay? So, how are we going to shorten our indirect object here, a ti, right? How are we going to shorten our indirect object, a ti? Okay? Es te, ¿no? El hombre te, right? For you, he does it. What is he ordering, right? He orders what? El bistec, okay? So remember, that's a singular masculine noun, so we're going to have to use a singular masculine direct object pronoun. So te lo, and then our verb. Te lo pidió, right? He orders it for you. He orders it for you. El hombre te lo pidió. El hombre te lo pidió. Okay, muy bien. All right, let's look at this sentence. What's our subject? La chica. What's our verb? Sirvió. Okay, served what? Los camarones, right? So that's our direct object. Then our indirect object would be to whom? A ellos, right? A ellos. So this one's going to be a little bit different than our other ones. Okay, because we're going to have to use that se, right? We have a A ellos, you know, that's going to be a les, if it's standalone indirect object pronoun. And then it's going to be followed by what? How are we going to shorten los camarones into a direct object pronoun? Los, right? Now, so if we were using these without changing it yet, it would be les, los, sirvió, right? But les, los, sirvió. Es muy difícil decir doble L, right? Now remember, only Eric Clapton lay laws and only criminals lay low, right? So you're not either of those. Make sure you do not use your L's, right? No doble L, okay? So it's not going to be les los sirvió, but se los sirvió. She served them to them, right? Muy bien. Se los sirvió. Very good. Okay. Felipe trajo la tarea al profesor. Felipe trajo la tarea al profesor. So, el sujeto, Felipe. Verbo, trajo, to bring, right? He brought the homework. He brought what? He brought the homework. So that's our direct object, la tarea. To whom? A el profesor, al profesor. So that would be our indirect object, right? So if we're going to shorten this, it would be le, la, right? Because singular feminine noun right here, la tarea. Le, la, trajo. But remember, le, la, only Eric Clapton does that. So we have to say, se la trajo. He brought it to him. He brought it to him. Okay? Muy bien. If you have any questions on that, just let me know, guys. Sé que es un poco difícil este concepto, pero ahí vamos, ¿no? Muchas gracias por estar aquí hoy y nos vemos pronto. Adiós.